Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be talking on this podcast today about why God created family. If you know the reason why, the purpose behind something, it will help you stay centrally focused on that. And I believe you're going to be really, really blessed as you listen in on this conversation about why God created family. So this is good. This is awesome. We're going to talk about why family, why God created family. And, the procreation part of family, he's left up to people, right? But the original intent, the design, all of that was the Lord's. And so this is a great conversation. And something I say this many times, that if you don't know the why, we talk about this all the time. If you don't know the why about something, you're going to lose your central focus of why you're doing something, why you're involved with something. And
what's the purpose behind
right?
What we're even doing, like what, and when you don't have your why, you don't even know a direction that you're going.
Right.
You're just going, hoping that someday, sometime you'll get somewhere.
Yeah.
And I believe that's actually what people have been doing, not only in marriage, but also in their families.
Right.
Like they hope that they're going to raise children who will become productive people in society, or I just had some children and I hope that they're gonna, I don't know, like sometimes there's not even any vision into it other than like I have ability, so I did.
Yeah.
And we have to get past that. Like we should be intentional people, because when we're intentional, we'll be aimed at a direction and we'll start going that direction.
That's what causes you to be fruitful.
That's right.
A lot of times people, they don't know the purpose of family. Mm-hmm. They don't know the purpose of their family. And it's possible that they, people get to the age where they can physically procreate. Mm-hmm. They'll start having kids. Sometimes it's unintentional. Inside of marriage, outside of marriage, it just happens. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whoa, now I have to deal with this. And so then, lo and behold, she's pregnant, they give birth, and they're like, what in the world are we doing here? And then people basically coast with no vision. And the point of this isn't really to talk about developing a vision for your family. I'm sure we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a great topic, something that we've done and really still are working to implement as well as we should. So it's good to have vision for your family and stuff. But just going back to the reason why did God create family? And there's I think a lot of expressions in Scripture and understanding that could come from that. But I think just a basic understanding is that children in our society, I think that children are not as I think sometimes they're tolerated instead of celebrated.
That's right.
We should be celebrating the addition and the multiplication to families, be it kids or grandkids. They are. The word says that they're a heritage from the Lord.
Yes, I was
they're
just
a blessing.
thinking that, they're a heritage. What is a heritage? It's like something that's so good and so valuable, and it's this place, it's supposed to be like where two have become one and they connected, and then it's an addition to that relationship, to that covenant, and then that is like just lived out, from this place of like this new thing that was birthed between, husband and wife, and then this new unit that was created to go forward and be what they were supposed to be together in this earth, and, bringing the Lord more so into habitation on this earth.
Yeah, and it's about taking that inheritance from the Lord, being your children, and investing into them what God has placed into you. And that's what family looks like. And for anybody that would listen to this, that they haven't been able to have children or haven't had children or whatever their situation is, I would say that there's still something in you to invest into other people. So you either adopt if you feel like that's something that is right for you to do, to do an actual physical legal adoption, or you just, you spiritually adopt people and find people to invest and to put in what God has put into you. And so that's something that's in mothers and fathers is, to have children. And we're just using just the natural order that God made. And there's lots of dynamics that go on in the world we live in, because it's not a perfect world. But just, I think in a perfect world, maybe the ideal thing would be for two people to come together, get married, they start having children, and then there should be a heart there to invest the godly traits and godly characteristics that God's placed in the parents into the children. But more than that, it is about identifying what is already in them that God says about them, and raising them up to be the men and women that God has called them to be. Because the Lord, he celebrates diversity.
That's right.
I think you can see that just in the way that he's made people. I mean, you take the different looking people in the world. You take a tall Scandinavian person, a little bitty short Asian person, a big strong African person, just all of these different, looks. God celebrates diversity. And even within a family, he celebrates diversity.
That's right.
And we've got, 4 boys, and they're all very, very different from each other. And everybody that's listening to this would say the same thing about their kids. There might be similarities definitely in looks and different things, but they're very different. And what makes a family really strong, and I think part of the reason why God created families is to be a celebration of the diversity that's there. But when you have a family that's full of love, it doesn't matter how diverse they are. They actually find unity in the things that bind them together. And so then they celebrate their individuality without being individualistic. Another topic for another time, very important.
That's really
but
good. Yeah.
We live in a very individualistic world where it's like everything is about me. And so it's not about being that, but it is about realizing each one of your children are different, and God made them different and unique. And the key is, as parents, is to be able to find out what's in them, help them come out of some of the wrong things, wrong thinking, wrong attitudes, and fully step into what God has for them.
That's right. And so I believe in order to do that as like a parent, first off, you have to be secure in who you are, because if you're not secure, then a lot of times, like, we project things onto our kids and want them to be things that we think that they should be instead of who they were created to be. But then, I love what you said just about, like, it's individualistic, but it's diverse, and it's a coming together. It's that unity where everybo's loved.
Yeah.
And that it's okay for them to be who they were created to be. And actually, you provide like a safe, nurturing, loving environment where they can have that cultivated in them, so that when it's time for them to launch and have their own family, that they launch from a very healthy, successful place.
Yeah.
So
this, talking about like where everybody is loved and everybody's celebrated for who they are, I believe that because that's not there is this is my personal opinion, right? This is Kentology. I believe this is one of the reasons why we have such a rise of homosexuality. Because when you have, just say, a young boy who thinks different, who operates different, and you have, and maybe he's wired a little bit softer, maybe he's more artistic, maybe he's musical, maybe he's into arts and things. And there's nothing wrong with that. God's artistic. He's the most artistic person ever. But maybe you got a dad who's just a brute, and was a football player and, whatever. And so this is one reason. I shouldn't say it's the main reason, but it's one of the reasons, is that you'll have a father who doesn't know how to relate to his child. Because when you have a fatherless child, and you have a boy that grows up to become, and turns out to be homosexual and steps in that homosexual lifestyle, that's not a mystery to me. What is a mystery to me is how you'll have a good, loving family, and you'll have one that will be raised up, and they will get into a lifestyle like that with the seemingly loving parents. And it's like, what got off there? And I think a lot of times you'll have the parents that won't know how to relate to that child that's very different. And what needs to happen, instead of looking at that child and like, well, I can't believe you're doing that. Why are you like that? Celebrate the right things that are in them that might be different. It causes that's acceptance of who they are, who God created them. And I think that a lot of people that get into lifestyles and get into, and just call it like it is, a lot of this, choosing your gender and all these things, my God, this is so far removed from even the normal human experience.
Right.
Don't even talk about the Bible for a second. Just even the normal human experience, saying to choose your own gender, it's cray-cray. I mean, it's amazing. Why do people do that kind of stuff? I think at the root of it, there's serious rejection. And they're looking for identity. They know they're a little bit different than maybe their siblings or other people in their peer group. And they never had somebody loving over them to say, what, God made you this particular way. And let's amplify that. So instead of being like, yeah, I'm really into music and I'm really into these, just whatever it could be, they are so hurt and rejected that they end up forming a whole new identity that's kind of like, you know what, screw you guys. Well, I don't want to have anything to do with you because you hurt me. And it may not be conscious, but that's what's going on the inside of them. And so they step in and they go a totally different direction. That's a little bit of what I have observed. But I've found it different that when you have kids that are very different than you as a dad, because I've got 4 boys, and some of them, they're all different than me in different ways. But I've had to learn how to find the things that are in them that are of God. Instead of shunning that, celebrate it and help them step into that.
Right, and you have to be secure in yourself in order to do that. Because a lot of times I think what happens is the reason maybe why there's a break is that you're not secure in who you are, and then fear rises up, and what happens when fear rises up is the need to control. Yes. And when you control somebody, they either rebel or they go into some self-preservation.
Yes, right.
But also what you said is like they cut a tie. They say, I am not getting the love and acceptance that I need here, so I'm going to detach myself from this so-called family unit. Yeah. And I'm going to find a new one. And there is a time in that separation. So you don't have unity anymore in this family unit, even if it's just per one, the one child or the one individual that's decided, I'm not getting that love, and I'm not getting it where I need and here in this family, so I'm going to separate myself. So you have disunity here, and then they form their own ideologies and philosophies,
or adopt the world's,
and then they begin to seek where they will be loved and accepted.
That's right.
And this is then children everywhere. This is people in general everywhere. If they aren't getting what they need at home, then they're going to go find it.
That's right.
Somewhere.
And being the primary need of people is really love and acceptance.
Yes.
Everybody has that need.
And family is supposed to be this unit.
That's right.
A unified thing that you have love and you have acceptance and you have security.
Right.
Like, these are things that parents need. These are things that everybody needs. They need love and acceptance and security. They need to know that they're going to have a safe place. And it should be cultivated in the home. Right. Parents should be cultivating safe places for their kids, so that their kids don't have to go try to find what they would call. Then you have you have the safe place that it is redefined. How do I define even a safe place? It's just where you feel secure. So they're going to go somewhere and find people who probably aren't good.
Right.
But maybe good to them or true. This is what they go find. They go find people who are secure, or what they would deem as secure, and then they attach themselves to those people, whether good, bad, or not, and they begin to adapt their philosophies, ideologies.
Which this brings into like a whole conversation that needs to happen in the church, and that is that it is our job to love people and to accept people, and that doesn't mean we accept what they do, because what they're doing could be totally not
That's
of
right.
God. But if they're going to go somewhere where they're accepted, we need to find a way to accept them. Now, the challenge of that, and I've dealt with this for years, the challenge of that is to be accepting of people, but I still have a responsibility to talk to my people about things that are not right.
That's right.
So I have to teach them things concerning, just like homosexuality is just, it's so prevalent, it's so in our face all the time, that I've had times when I felt impressed to say, look, let's just call it what it is. This is wrong. This is not right. And so in doing that, sometimes people can feel insulated or inoculated from feeling like they could be a part of our church, and that's difficult. Those are difficult balances. But at the same time that we've said that, we've helped people. We've had times when we've had couples that were of the same sex that we have helped them. We've given them groceries. We've done different things because they're people.
They're people.
They're
That's
broken.
right.
They're people, and so we just love them. When you find a marriage and a family to where it's not healthy, which is what God wants. He wants the family to be a representation of His kingdom in the earth.
That's right. That's right.
And people coming together and being unified together. When you see a lack of that, it's usually because there's brokenness in the leaders of the homes, the parents.
That's right.
And broken people make broken people,
That's
make
right.
broken people, make broken people. Hurting people. Joyce Meyer's got this great saying: "Hurting people hurt people."
Yeah.
So when people stay in a cycle that they were brought up in, and they don't identify, okay, that's actually wrong. Break that cycle and start new cycles. Then the ones underneath of them are far more likely to stay in those patterns that are unhealthy. And so we have to be the ones that identify, in particular, this issue of walking in love and having acceptance in the home, regardless of what your kids do. And there are people that, and I get asked this question oftentimes about, like, especially with adult children, like, my kid is doing blah blah blah. I'm thinking about cutting them off. What do you think? And I'm like, well, what happened with the prodigal son and the father? As far as I could tell, the father never cut the prodigal son off. As a matter of fact, he was looking from afar off to see when his son would come back home, and he welcomed him and he gave him everything that he didn't deserve. And so that's usually my answer. Now, there's a level of people when they're doing things that the parents have to say, I can't participate in this because this is just flat out ungodly. And I respect those decisions. I think we parents have to do that when their kids are off doing nonsense. But we should never stop loving our children. Never stop accepting our children. And from when they're young, especially those that would be listening to this that would have young children, you need to do everything you can to bring your kids into a loving relationship with you.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. We talk about this a lot, that, we bring our kids into something and then bring them out of it. And because when they're little, you can't reason with a 2 or a 3-year-old. If they're going to run out into the street, you can't go, now, whatever their name is, now you better not do that, or you might get hit by a car, because cars go fast and they're bigger than you, and you can't reason with it. But if they're going to run out in the street and they're going to disobey you, you get them and you discipline them appropriately to keep them from doing something that's harmful.
That's right.
That's what God did with the children of Israel with the law. But then when Jesus came, He brought them out of something that He brought them into.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do with our children, is that, when they're young, we have to, like, and of course we believe in spanking because it's biblical, it's right, and it is proven to be good, and there's right and wrong ways to spank.
That's right.
We'll talk about that. We'll give some good practical tips on right and wrong ways to discipline, to spank, and what it means to train a child and all that. But it's proven to be effective. But the older our kids have gotten, the more we've brought them out of, like we have a 16-year-old, and I'm not going to bend him over my knee and spank him. And I basically, he's such a good, fine young man that we don't really discipline him much anymore. He's stepping into manhood, and we basically approach him like, okay, well, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good decision? There's a lot of wisdom that can be in this stuff, but ultimately we try to lead our kids into a grace relationship with them, because that's what we have with our Father.
That's right.
But because they have chosen to remain sons, there's also there's also the ability there for us to say, son,
Yes.
I wouldn't do this. I've been your age before. Obviously, I'm older than you, and I would be careful about this.
Right.
And so, why God
You can
created family?
Impart wisdom.
You can impart wisdom,
Yeah.
if you that
If you're
availability
true,
is there.
A true father
Yes.
can impart wisdom.
So let's answer this question really quickly. Why did God create family? What is the reason? If you could just say it in a paragraph, why did God create family? Because I think this goes back to the why.
The why.
Yeah.
Yes. Gosh, there's so many things that I'm just trying to get words or whatever to. So it's an expression more. So God's so vast, and I believe that we're supposed to be expressions of who He is, but then it's this unit coming together of being a group of people who love each other, who are united, who then create more united people that continue creating united people. I mean, to just show the goodness of God here in the land of the living, in the land of the living, like just to continue to cultivate more of who God is. Because, it says a seed is created after its own kind, and we are created after God. And so as we come together, create children, then children rise up and create children. And so it's supposed to be where like a family is a heritage of the Lord. It's like it's a heritage of His seed.
That is also good. I'll give a little input on that and really answer that question as to why God created family. And I think that there's different things, there's different institutions that God created. He created marriage, He created family, He created government, He created the church. Now, I think that the government and the church, He created those because of the fall in the world, is almost like the after creation. So there's reasons and purposes behind all of that. But I think the idea of having a relational, diversified unit that walks in unity with one another is one of the greatest expressions of who God is. And I think that everything we do on this earth should represent and express who God is, the kingdom of God, what it looks like. And this is why in church and in our family, and I don't lead perfectly in this, but one of my biggest things that I harp on is unity. We have to be unified. If we're not unified, why are we coming together? If we're coming together to bicker and to fight and whatever, that's no purpose of the Lord. But to come together and be unified, not because we agree, but because we're in covenant with one another. There's a covenant in family because of the coming together of the marriage, but then having children come out of that. There's a covenant that's there that when that arises, you can take a home that from being strife-filled to being the most blessed environment that one would ever want to be in. And that's what we're after, and it represents the Lord well. And this is why, like, even in the church, like, people could tell me the worst things that they would ever do or have been involved in, and I've heard some pretty wild things people have been involved in. Man, I will love them and help them and bless them any way I can. But as soon as they start coming against one of the other brothers and sisters in the Lord, they're going to get the other end of the shepherd's staff, and I'm going to beat them over the head with it because because church is family.
It is, yes.
And I value unity. And I say that jokingly, but also serious. I value unity more than anything else.
Yeah.
And being unified is such a great expression, and families are designed to be that way. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Family by Design. I pray that you were blessed as you listened to the word of the Lord for your life today. I want to encourage you to go on and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. If this ministry is blessing you, go to our website at www.wartmen.org. There you can find more resources, and you can also consider partnering with this ministry. If you like what we're doing, we just pray that you would at least join us in prayer and consider supporting us financially as we take the gospel deep into the hearts of people. Gospel preached, hearts awakened, and nations reformed.